Hey guys, welcome to Rising Stars. I'm your interim host, Sean Watts. Michael will be back in the near future, don't you guys worry. This production is sponsored by Urban Eats MTL, and I'm proud to present our next guest, Dalia.
Hi.
Dalia, an absolute pleasure.
Pleasure is mine.
How are you?
I'm doing very well. Glad to be here.
Good,
How about
yes. I'm doing great, thank you so much.
Fantastic.
So Dalia, where does that name originate from? Because it sounds Latina to me.
Yeah, that's the question I always get. It's actually a mix of Lebanese and Palestinian.
Okay.
I'm born and raised here, and my parents are, well, my dad's Lebanese and my mom is Palestinian.
Okay, nice, and then here you are.
Yes, happy to be here.
Amazing, okay. So, have you always lived in Montreal?
Yes.
You have?
Yes.
Have you traveled anywhere else?
Well, I've definitely traveled in general. I have some family a bit everywhere.
Okay.
Mainly my family is in Jordan, but also I just love to travel.
Yeah.
I find it's a very enriching experience too, very inspiring too, and
Yeah.
I find it's quite important as an actor or an artist in general.
I mean, it's experiencing life, right? So there's different points of perspectives, culture, food.
Yes.
You have usually a pretty crazy story, 1 or 2 stories per travel trip, I guess.
Yep.
If you're in Montreal and you want to have a cool story to tell, just go hang out on the metro.
Yes.
A lot of weird people, and there's enough, stories to be told for weeks at a time.
Very much so.
Yeah.
I'm a diehard public transit user, and never ceases to amaze me.
Yeah, I know there's some interesting characters, but I'm a people watcher, so I use that for acting to look at body movement and how people portray themselves. And sometimes there's homeless people in the way that they'll go pigeon-toed and they'll curl up their wrists and they'll walk and swing their arm behind, and I'll use that for inspiration for a certain role. I'm like, okay, if I ever have to play a homeless person, because I kind of look like one sometimes, I know how to do it, right? I know how to pull it off, and that's called embodying the character.
Yes.
It's very important.
Actually, I had a teacher back at a school that I went to a few years ago.
Which school?
It was House of Actors.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
I did the full-time program there, and one of my teachers, she's fantastic, she gave us as homework to go and people watch.
Nice.
So we actually
Does it feel kind of creepy, where you're watching more than usual?
Well, it depends for who, because I also love to just sit down and people watch, and just like exactly for that reason that you said, seeing okay, how each person has their different mannerisms, and I try to always figure out what's happening in their life, like what is the story behind this person. And so when we did that exercise, that was super enriching, because it was exactly for that. How do people move? How do they breathe? How do they talk? How do they react to things? And then we worked on characters that actually derived from the people that we watched.
That's funny.
Which was so fun. Yes.
Yeah, like I find there are gem moments where, for example, I've been on the metro and there was police with assault rifles looking for a pervert, and to see everyone's reactions like this and trying to film, I have that imprinted in my mind.
Yeah.
So if I ever have to play a passenger goer who's, there's someone with an armed weapon, I know how to portray that, or someone who gets caught between the doors as they try to, the red light goes on, beep, boop, boo, and the door closes and they try to go through and they get caught and then they're squiggling and they're trying to get through. And so I have, those gem moments where it's you don't see that every day, right?
Especially not with the rifles.
No, that was a very particular case, and I ended up being delayed for an hour and a half, and I'm like, this is crazy. I'm literally 2 metro stations away from my place, and I'm stuck here for an hour and a half. But anyway, that's besides the point, right? Yes. So people watching is something that you can do to, for those aspiring actors out there, those creative individuals, they can do on a daily basis, and it helps to sort of, work on your craft, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
As you learned from House of Actors.
Yeah, and even at Concordia, when I had taken some electives, there was another teacher that gave us a similar exercise too, and it's just, you get out of your mind too. I find sometimes the biggest block for an actor is just being so judgmental of yourself, and when you go and you do those type of exercises, you just forget about everything else and it becomes about them. And that's the goal, right? When working on a character is how do you bring that character to life? And those exercises, you're just so fascinated by watching that person that
1,000%.
you sink into it and you forget about yourself, and then suddenly you find yourself moving differently, speaking differently, standing differently. Like, it's fun.
Yeah, it sort of breaks your habits of what you do on a daily basis, right?
Yes.
By doing that. But I mean, it's a perfect example too. You can just watch a film or a TV series, and the way that they're doing their accents, you can start mimicking it yourself, and it helps.
Have you found like that helpful for voice acting? You had mentioned.
I have. So in particular, voice acting, because I can sort of dial in on how they like to articulate and talk really slow in some of the voiceovers. I'm like, okay, well, that's pretty much the key on how to make it interesting, right? And then sort of their intentions on things and accents as well.
Right.
There was a series, it was called The Tourist with Jamie Dornan, and he's originally from Ireland. He has an Irish accent. I picked up the accent just by listening to him.
Oh, fantastic.
And now I've added it to my resume. Boom, perfect, right? Just by watching and listening and then imitating.
A tough accent.
Yeah, it's not so bad.
Yeah.
Once you get it, you get it. It's like riding a bike, right?
Fair enough.
Yeah, what about you?
Yeah, well, funny that you mentioned that, because for a while I had kind of just shut myself away from like watching anything, and lately I've gone back into it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is so crucial for an actor, just an artist in general. Like, it's so important. Like, some people, they'll say like, oh, you know, it's a waste of time, this and that. And I'm like, yeah, but if you love acting,
it's
you
never
gotta
a waste of time.
Right?
No, because we're psychoanalyzing the talent.
Exactly.
Not even I know when there's a green screen, I'm like, oh,
yes,
it's so fake. I know it's a fake plant. It looks like soap opera. Come on. This is a real plant, by the way. I mean, right?
No,
right?
well, and it's really fun. Like, especially, let's say I'll be sitting with my partner or friends or whatnot, and we have such a different way of watching a movie.
Yeah, it's point of perspective at that point, right?
And it's exactly that, those little things where as I have more and more training or more experiences, I start to pick up on all these little things that I didn't notice before. I'm like, oh my God, acting is just so fascinating. There's so much that contributes to a successful story and scene. And starting to pay attention to those things, it's helped me also bring that to my work. I'm like, okay, I'm going to pay attention. There's probably a camera here, this, that. And I kind of go through it in my mind before going on set. And it's all because I watch more shows and films, and the behind the scenes are just...
I used one for an audition. There was an audition I had to play like an outlaw. Okay. In like cowboy times, right? Western.
Right.
So do you know the Walter Goggins? He's from Fallout. He plays the cowboy in Fallout.
Yes, yes.
So
yes.
I watched interviews of him because he's from Atlanta with the southern twang, with the Western cowboy accent, and I used that for inspiration to do my audition for the commercial, you know?
Awesome.
So when you watch and listen, you can actually learn a lot.
Yeah.
And that's why they tell you, like when you're in school, you know, just like university, high school, if you sit and listen and you pay attention and you're attentive to your lectures, that's how you learn, right? You can't be in La La Land in your head flying somewhere, right? I mean, it makes it that much harder.
Well, even when acting, there's one thing that I keep hearing over and over again from my teachers is the importance of being present.
Yeah.
And they're like, look, we all have our own insecurities, we all have our things that we're worried about, but the best thing you could do as an actor is be fully present in that moment and listen.
1,000%.
And suddenly, once you're listening, just like real life, if you're actually listening to someone else, you're not in your head, you're not thinking, oh, is this my next line? Or, oh, how do I look? How am I standing? You're actually just living as that character. And that has just changed everything for me. And I have this this wonderful teacher. Her name is Annick Matern.
She here in Montreal?
Yeah, she's here in Montreal.
So where's she with?
She does a lot of private coaching, and she teaches also at Triple Threat Academy in LaSalle. Okay. But she also does a lot. She does coaching for sets, and she's
nice.
She has like for 30 years of experience. So working with her is really a pleasure and an honor, because there's just so much, and what she does a lot in her work. She's excellent at improv, and she specializes a lot in her teaching with improv, and a lot of it is working on your listening. Yeah. You know, and she always says it's. I always say it as first thought, not best thought. I believe it's that. Yeah. And the idea behind it is just, at least my interpretation of it is, don't question and don't try to do the right thing. Do the thing in the moment that is natural.
It just feels right.
The impulse.
Yeah, it's more genuine.
And she's always bringing us back to that. What's the impulse? What is your character telling you in that moment? Not you as a person. And that has been pivotal for me in my work.
Yeah.
It just also alleviates so much pressure that we put on ourselves as actors. We think it's about us, and that's something that I hear over and over again with actors, where it's like, oh, how do I look? Oh, my audition, I didn't like the way I did this and that.
I know, they're worried about the aesthetics.
But the audition was good, you know, and then I look at him like, but they did great.
Yeah.
You know, and I realize, oh, you're judging yourself. You're no longer staying true to the character. And that...
But now you have to ask yourself, if you were the producer, would you want to hire an actress or actor like that? Right?
Yeah.
Because then it shows signs of being a diva. It's never a good thing if they're just so concerned about the aesthetics. Because what happens if their character has to get down and dirty? Are they still going to be worried about their hair if there's a brawl or there's some sort of mud scene, whatever, right?
Well, a lot of it with acting has to do with self-work. Like, I when going into acting and really diving into it full time, I didn't realize, yes, you can learn the technique, yes, you can learn, but so much of it has to do with how much you work on yourself and how much you work past those things. For example, worrying about your aesthetics and worrying about how you look, how you sound. There's that little shift of, I trust myself in the training that I got. Mm-hmm. I trust myself that after, now I would say it's been 4 years that I'm doing this seriously. My self-tapes from 4 years ago compared to now,
oh yeah,
2 different people.
I know, it's crazy.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Have you done that?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. I don't look back on them, but I could remember, cold-heartedly, certain auditions where I've just bombed, and I'm like, oh, how?
Learning experience,
Yeah, or even now, like I'll if I book a role, as soon as I get home, I'm like, oh man, I could have played it this way.
Of course.
I could have done it this way.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's a part of me that's not fully content.
For sure.
And I don't know if that's just being too much of being too critical maybe.
Right.
But yet I'm still riding that wave and that high of enjoying being on set and having that absolute pleasure and the gratitude of being on set, right?
Yes.
Like I find with acting is you have to be engaged in the conversation, listening. So like if I don't like the individual, or if I find this stranger who I'm having a conversation with just really off-putting,
right.
I look like those pugs that go cross-eyed with their tongue sticking out, where I'm like,
yes.
And I'm not really paying attention. I'm like, oh yeah. But yet it looks like I'm paying attention because I'm staring into your eyes, but my eyes are crossed. I know they are, versus someone who's true and genuine and I can have a real conversation with.
Right.
And then that helps too. So having a good scene partner is so crucial. And the chemistry with that. Would you agree or disagree?
Yeah. It's the way I go about it is also I want to be that person for other people. When I go to work, it's a blend of I want to make this day as easiest as possible for everyone and bring some joy in it too, because everyone's stressed. Everyone. There are people who are there longer than us, like directors and the crew. They're there way before us on set, right?
We're there for like 10 hours. They're 16.
Exactly. So I come in being like, okay, how can I, be myself, be ready for my work, but also be someone positive to work with. And sometimes that's where people get caught up in it, is that they forget to also think about others or even think about how they can contribute positively to an experience, and that will kind of shoot them in the foot, sort of.
Yeah.
So it's a mix of things where, as much as I can rely on my scene partner, I don't know how my scene partner prepares. I don't know what's their approach. I don't know if they take it as seriously as me. Some
people become very chatty because they're okay with it, and others, they're complete silence and they're in their trailer, and I'm like, wonder what they're doing.
Well, exactly.
Are they napping? Like, what are they doing?
And everyone has their own approach. Yeah. Some people need to be in their own headspace. Some people need to chat with others to kind of alleviate the mood.
I don't know if you've ever booked like a bigger role, but when you book a bigger role, a lot of the times the producers, they're at your mercy. They'll be like, you want coffee? I'll go get it for you, this and that. it's always been a very awkward and weird situation for me, because I've been in those situations a few times where it's like, oh, do you need this? I'll go get it for you. Or if I drop something, someone's cleaning up for me, and I'm like, I can clean it myself, I'm okay with doing that. Or I can go get my own coffee, right? So I always politely say, no, it's okay, and I'll go get it myself.
Yeah.
Because, I'm a human being. It's, why am I getting this treatment?
I understand.
But the business side of it too is they're trying to make you at ease mentally, so you can nail your job the first time and you don't have to do a reshoot a day later or whatever, because then it comes out of the budget of the production.
Yes.
So that's what it comes down to, is the math. It's the financial part, right?
Right.
So enjoy that moment when it does occur, but don't take advantage and be kind of, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So if they offer, sure, why not? Okay, I'll take this. Thank you so much. And that's
some people like that too. They like feeling that they can help others.
Yeah.
I know.
It's
rewarding in its own
that's
way,
true. There are people that are like that, where it's like they're kind of pleasers, and they're like, I'll do anything to help you just so I feel good.
Well, I think it's part of the human experience too. I mean, as much as we want to say that we're all in our own worlds.
We're in the same world.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I love about this job, whether it's voice acting, whether it's a team effort. Nothing can be done. I can't do this on my own. Even just being here right now, I couldn't do this without having the whole crew here, without having you here, So being on those big sets and stuff, it's the same idea. It's this idea, well, okay, there's this human connection, and you're working with people at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's not because someone has a certain title or not you have to act differently or be in a different way. It's just, people are coming to do their job.
A lot of people, they have their egos like that, right?
Yeah.
And as soon as you put a title, like let's say I put you as an A-lister, you might change as a human being, right? Or a lot of the times, like I've mentioned on other interviews, is where extras get paid to applaud the actor in one of the scenes or whatever, so they're used to like this positive, love towards their character, that when they go out in public, they expect the same thing. And it's like, no one's paying these real public people to applaud you or love you or fangirl or fanboy over you like you've received in your movies.
Right.
Because that's a false reality, but then they bring that into the real reality and they're expecting the same thing. And it's like, no, it's not like that, right?
Right.
Those are paid extras, and they're fed well.
Yes.
And that's why they're clapping, right? Yeah, I'm fed, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I've also had some conversations. I had worked as extra, and even now I like to do that. And some people really like to do it also just for being on set.
Yeah, I know. I've met a few like that.
You know, and it's really fun to see people who have lived a life, right? And they've had careers that have nothing to do with acting, and they're like, yeah, I do this during my retirement. I love it. I get to see how the magic is done, and it's such a nice thing to hear, because sometimes us as actors, we can be so worried about, feeling so responsible to getting our job done right, and then it's a reminder of, whoa, it's a privilege to be here. It's a privilege to be on set. It's a privilege to work with these people,
Oh, yeah.
And it snaps you out of it of like, oh, right, no, this is really cool.
Yeah. I had a moment like that where it was sort of like, it was just like a flashback, and it was like one of those moments where I was like, I'm just so grateful. Like, I started off as an extra, right? Like most people, you start off as an extra, and you're all starstruck by the actors and everything that's going on, right? Then I booked just a small part in a really big international commercial where it was just a reaction shot and like hand stuff and whatever. The producers, they were like escorting me to like the lunch area where the famous hockey player was, and I was allowed to chat with him and the producers, but all the extras were starstruck by us because they're like, oh my God, and I remember being in their place, once upon a time.
Right.
And it was such a humbling experience.
Yeah.
And then no one was talking to me, and I was like, why isn't anybody talking to me? This and that. And I felt like such a jerk, because after the set, then I realized, oh yeah, the extras aren't supposed to talk to the actors.
Right.
I had them kind of wave at me, and I waved, but I wish I would have been, just go sit down and have a conversation, because I was in their position, and I felt like such a jerk after, So now I know next time during that experience, I'm going to go hang out with them, but, after, I felt so guilty. So if they're watching this, then I'm so sorry. I really am. As Canadian as that is, I'm so sorry, guys.
I'm sure they understood. They're also aware of the situation and they understand it's work.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah. So, okay, so House of Actors. Where else have you studied here in Montreal?
I took electives at Concordia University, and that's
so you studied, what is that, drama? Theater?
So I was studying in something completely unrelated, liberal arts.
Very unrelated, but still artsy.
It served its purpose in its own way because it's also helped me as a writer. Okay. And it's also helped me as, when analyzing texts and stuff that we have to do as actors.
Of course.
It's helped me in that sense too.
So it's beneficial.
Exact. Yeah. And so when I was taking the electives, I took 2 acting classes, and that's what really just confirmed that I'm like, okay, I got to do this full time. Yeah. And from there, I went to House of Actors. I trained also at Les Ateliers Fichot, which is absolutely fantastic.
What is that? I haven't heard of it.
So Atelier Fichot is a school in Montreal. It's a French school, and they focus a lot on technique. So when it comes to, each school has their own approaches, and it's the method of an actress called Danielle Fichot. She's very well known in Quebec especially, but Canada, and now she's kind of everywhere. She even trains others in France. And it's a fantastic school because they prepare you on so many levels of reminding you that you are an actor first, and you have a certain skill that you have to bring to set. And they snap you out a lot of this idea of, oh, but how do I look? How do I present myself? Oh, am I liked? Am I pleased? Am I pleasing others? No. You have to be ready. You have to prepare your text. They teach you how to really analyze the text. There's so many fantastic classes there. Yeah. And they're extremely precise about what they do because all the courses you take there are related to La Méthode Fichot.
So is this course, are they only in French, English?
Yes.
Bilingual?
Now I believe they've started some bilingual classes, but you have people from everywhere. So you have Anglophones, Francophones, and they're very open to it. Nice. And if you want to work in English text, you could. Personally, I wanted to work more in French because I did a lot in English.
So are you in the UDA? Or
no,
have you auditioned for UDA roles?
I have auditioned, but I'm not in yet.
Okay. I heard it's very hard. I don't remember, if you can sort of educate the viewers, how many credits does it take to get in? I'm
trying to remember fully, I believe, because there's the stagiaire and then there's the full UDA, and I believe to be full, you have to have 30 credits.
That's a lot. Just to get in as full, that's a lot.
It's a lot of people say it's much tougher than getting, for example, into ACTRA.
Yeah.
Or even equity.
They throw that left and right, but the membership fee is incredibly expensive.
Exactly. Well, exact. And so it depends what you're looking for, and it's a bit more, it has its own challenges, but it's also very rewarding once you get there.
I was going to say, it sounds extremely fulfilling. It's like a marathon. I'd just drop and cry. And
everyone that I talk to that's reached the full member, they're just like, I finally did it. Yeah. Oof, and I'm like, hey, congrats, amazing. It is a major accomplishment. So that's that. I would say to look more into everything they have on their website, and even reaching out to Les Ateliers Fichot and stuff. They're fantastic with questions. Yeah. So that was one of the training that I did in French, and I keep going back to them because they have really fantastic
that's
variety.
Sort of who you're staying with now at this point in terms of development? Okay.
Yes and no. Yeah. So I also train at Triple Threat Academy. Yeah. So with them, I've done improv. I've actually met my agent there. I also do, I train in dance. Okay. And they offer a variety of things. So the idea is that it's called Triple Threat. So singing, dancing, acting. Yeah. That's really what they try to shape their actors, and they at least show that possibility as...
Well, good for you for being a triple threat. There's no way I could. I don't have a singing voice. Dancing, I could probably get into it. Acting, sure, but singing?
I'm sure you could. You said you do an Irish accent. I'm sure you can sing
I know what my strengths are. I know what they are, and It's a cold hard fact. I've dated girls who have said never sing again, and I know it's true. So I'll pretend I'm like listening to a sad music video in the shower and whatever, you know.
Get it.
Yeah. So I'll stay away from that. But congrats to you on being a triple threat.
Thanks.
I think that's a great accomplishment.
Appreciate
as
it.
long as you know you're working hard in each of the crafts.
Yes.
So not giving too much love to acting or this, and you know, that's how you become the real triple threat, is being strong in every single craft, not just being, oh, I can do basic dance and sing basic and, you know, act.
Well, something that I found extremely enriching from going into dance is how much that has broken some blocks that I had as an actor in my body, being in my body, working in my body. And, you know, let's say you're working on a scene that is extremely demanding and very emotional. Sometimes it can stir up your own personal blocks, you know, for things that in real life I wouldn't be comfortable saying or doing. Well, as an actor, you kind of have to be able to do that because you have to be true to the character.
Of course.
And by going into dance, it's sort of just, and I'm still in it, right? It's still relatively a new journey for me. It broke a lot of things that I would shy away from, or I would get tense about, or I didn't even want to do like certain character work because I knew it would stir up something, and even singing for that matter. For a long time, I thought I couldn't sing in general. I always become very teary, I always cry, and my neck chokes up. And then that actually, and thankfully I was surrounded by fantastic teachers at Triple Threat and even a fantastic singing teacher. They kind of shed light on the fact that, well, it's actually revealing something else. It's revealing something from, let's say, your past or your present or your own little things that you have to work on as an actor.
Internal problems.
Exact. And ever since I've been doing that work, well, suddenly, I'm able to sing.
It's not, you're not choked up
I'm
anymore.
not choked up. And it's fascinating because it's so important to be in tune with your body as an actor, because you don't want that happening on set where you don't have that, you know, that space to kind of waste other people's time, or, you know, have time to backtrack or say like, oh, I don't know what's going on. So being a triple threat is so helpful, because you suddenly realize that acting is a combination of so many things. Using your voice, your body, as you would know, also as a voice actor. And how if you have stress in your body, well, it's going to be revealed in your voice. It's going to be revealed in your singing. It's going to be revealed in the way you move, the little micro movements that...
Your body movement, your postures, whatever else, you know? And it affects your personality too.
Yes, very much so.
So if you're stressed and you have things that you're pushing down, you project that to others.
Yes.
Without even realizing it. Even depression.
Yes.
You start pushing people away, right?
Yes.
For example.
Everything in life.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything in life.
Eating, lack of eating, whatever. You know, it's a really big topic.
Yes.
But we won't dive too deep into it.
The psychology of acting.
Yeah.
I love it, but that's for another time.
That's another conversation, right? Outside. So.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about, like, do you have a role that really stands out to you that you've booked? Or it sort of captivated you and you're like, I really enjoyed that? And if not, then we can go to part B for the question, which would be, if I can give you a contract with any role, past, present, or future, what role would you want?
Well, I'm a huge fantasy fan, so I would love to play like a fantasy character.
Like what?
So either like an elf or some kind of witch, as
like
much as
Wicked?
Yeah, like I found, for example, Maleficent quite intriguing. You know, she's
great.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
And Angelina Jolie did a great job in her portrayal of her. It was showing a whole other side to her that, you know, we think that Maleficent is just the evil villain and that's it.
No.
Then you see her backstory and her vulnerabilities.
The poor thing, she got her wings removed, and I would be evil too if someone took my wings like that. Forget about it.
And you know? so I find those characters super intriguing, like playing sort of a villain. A villain's never just a villain for being a villain.
No. There's a story.
Exact. There's layers, and it's like diving into it and diving into something that might not be something that you know as a person. I find that really intriguing.
Yeah.
You know, going into the work of being like, okay, putting yourself in that mindset, what did they go through? How would they behave? Why are they, you know, holding themselves in a certain way? Is it reflecting something on them? And I find fantasy just so incredible because
it's so surreal, the things that are occurring. Like I'm a huge fan of like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Vikings, this and that, right? So those kind of projects I'm just so captivated by. Like Lord of the Rings is like, oh my God. Yeah.
I have a tattoo.
So oh, you do? Okay, so you're a diehard fan as well.
Rereading the book.
I can go those movies are so iconic in what, you know, how they filmed it on, you know, on set locations.
Yeah.
That is so genuine and it was so true, and you could tell there was very limited CGI, and they had villain actors with prosthetics and all this cool stuff, and that's what made it so genuine and so cool and interesting. Now a lot of the producers are gonna focus on CGI and all that stuff, green screen, and you could tell, you know, when you start watching shows like we mentioned earlier, you could tell when it's a green screen and this and that.
Yeah.
It's boring. It's fake. It doesn't look good.
The creativity of it all is like something that I find fascinating.
Yeah.
Seeing how set designers bring things to life. Like I remember once for a play that I did, it was the first time that, you know, I book a contract and I go on set for the first time.
Yeah.
And I just arrived on set and my jaw dropped. I was looking everywhere, and I remember the director was there. She was freaking out. She was so excited to see my reaction. And I was just like, oh my God, you know, we've been working for months on this, and then finally you get to that moment, and I'm like, this is what you've been working on? Like, I was talking to the set designer, I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Like, it's fun to see also how their interpretation of what they need to do for their work comes out, right?
Yeah.
It's like us as actors and how we interpret a character and we see the final product.
Of course.
It's the same for a set designer, a costume designer, a music composer. Like, that's just what I absolutely adore of acting. There's so much that goes into it. Nothing can be done without the help of others.
No, of course it's a team, right?
And that's one of the things that made Lord of the Rings so successful.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Before we do wrap things up, I have one last question for you. Quick question. If you can give advice to the aspiring actor, actress, whether it be a boy, teenager, adult, elderly person, what advice could you give them to get into it, you know, to have them hop over the fence when they're leaning on it?
A few things.
Okay.
One, don't be in a rush. If you're going into acting, it's something for a lifetime. It's not something you can do over a year. It's not about the fame. You also set your own definition of your success. For example, we were talking about our auditions when we first started and looking at our self-tapes. For me, that's a huge success. Seeing how I've progressed over, 4 years ago and now, I feel like that's extremely successful. Whereas others have another way of judging success. So, don't be in a rush, but be consistent. Be consistent in your training, in the work that you're doing, in learning, in asking people, meeting people, just putting yourself out there and stepping out of your comfort zone is a huge one.
Yeah.
Also, it's less about you than you think it is.
1,000%.
As being an actor.
Yeah, 1,000%.
We touched a bit on it, but being an actor is so much more rewarding when you start really looking into what the project is about, what it is about for the director, for the set designer, the cost, everyone, and realizing that it's not about you as an actor, it's about your character and what you can do to make a true story for them.
Exactly.
And that shifts everything. And another thing, we touched a bit on it too, is work on yourself as a person. As long as you have insecurities, and we all have insecurities, and we always will. Even the A-list actors, they say it too. Yeah. Learn your insecurities, but don't let that block you from achieving what you want to achieve.
Exactly.
Ask mentors, ask teachers, talk to people who have all kinds of various experience and see how did they overcome it. So many people. There's actually not a single person that I know who's successful who didn't have insecurities that...
Or adversity.
Yeah. They overcame them. They learned how to, work them out as a professional.
1,000%.
It's a mix of those things. Take your time, train, be consistent, and work on yourself as a person. it will really reflect in your work, like a lot.
Amazing. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
This has been another episode of Rising Stars. I'm your interim host, Sean Watt. This production is sponsored by Urban Eats MTL. I'll catch you guys on the next episode. Thank you so much, Dalia, for being here. It's such an absolute pleasure.
Same.
Wishing you nothing but the best, okay?
Thank you. You too.
Take care, guys.